Hello everybody and welcome to the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship here in the EU. We're in the final round here at Daytona, where there is still the AM Championship very much up for grabs. Alex R.A.W.S has won the Pro Championship with flying colours last week at Sebring, but now it's time to turn our attention to the AMs really and find out who's going to be crowned champion there. My name is Ian O'Leary. I'll be alongside Zach Sweeney here for the duration of the race today, and Zach, it's good to have you alongside me again. Alex R.A.W.S has been pretty dominant so far, I think it's fair to say, but it's very much up for grabs in the AMs.
It is, yeah. There's not much really separating the main four protagonists that we have seen throughout the season. Of course, it has funneled its way down to realistically the two of Dean Timms and Ivo Linden, maybe Jeremy De Boer if he can get a little bit lucky, but yeah, no, certainly up for grabs, especially with the theme that we've been seeing with especially the AMs of how up and down it can be. You know, at some point it can be a domination for one driver, at other points they can absolutely flop. So yeah, it's certainly all up for grabs today.
Definitely is. Dean Timms, as you say, is leading the championship at the moment in that AM category. We're just getting lined up on the grid right now, so we'll get to that soon as well. However, yeah, Dean Timms is leading. Ivo Linden needs to finish first and second. It doesn't matter in what races that those happen, but he does need to finish first and second, and Dean Timms to have a pretty bad day to take the title. And Jeremy De Boer needs to win both of the races here today to take that title. So it's looking pretty difficult for both of them. If Dean Timms has a solid round, then he should be absolutely fine here today. But let's wait and see whether he manages that or not here in this race. We're very much in the darkness though, Zach. We're at Daytona. It's a great circuit to end off this championship. I've got to say, it's a very good track for racing, or not one I particularly enjoy driving, but for racing, this is very, very good indeed. A great place.
Absolutely, it's going to be pretty much a slipstream first, of course, through the banking, and of course the infield section as well isn't too bad for overtaking. You can really run closely with the cars in front and actually nip your nose up the inside. So really looking forward to this one. We've seen a couple of races dictated by slipstream and keeping everyone nice and close, but not really to the extent of Daytona. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. Of course, with race 1 and race 2 as well. Yeah, there should be plenty of action to keep us entertained.
Certainly should. There are the pros. You can just see making their way through at the moment at the front of the field. 12 of them here today. The AMs slightly more numerous as always, just in the background, or will be in the background when we get the green flag finally. Alex R.A.W.S does have now an unassailable lead in the championship with over 40 points over the rest of the field. His teammate Sean Campbell running him close, but once again, we're going to get underway with this pro category. Race 1, 25 minutes of racing here at Daytona, ready to get underway. As they make their way through the trial now, the red lights will come on, and immediately we're going to get underway and get racing for the final time in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship. It's a great start from Alex R.A.W.S. What else would you expect? Harry Wills getting into second place rather nicely with a nice little cut into second place there through turn 2. In third, it will be Stuart Reynolds and Thomas Cope and Chris Chatterton rounding out the top 5 or so. But as expected, Alex R.A.W.S gets off to a fantastic start, as he has done all season long.
Indeed, so as we see now the AMs get underway. Dean Timms on pole. He's got David Vlamek alongside. Of course, a bit of a shaken up quali order. They had to do it again, and already looking to the inside. That's John Williams nipping his nose in. Might have to force the gap open as they head their way in towards T1 for the first time. Dean Timms leads. Is it going to be John Williams or David Vlamek who leads out of T1 for second place? It's going to be John Williams, so a pretty good start for him as we see Jeremy De Boer there in P4. As we say, needs to win both of these races, so really needs to start getting a move on.
Does, but 25 minutes for him to do so here in this race. Oz off the road in the background there for Simon Dodd, who really doesn't have very much luck in race 1s. You've got to say, he does often win race 2, or he has done for the last 2 weeks, but other than that, it's been pretty miserable for him in race 1. As we go back to the pros, where very much things are staying in the kind of slipstream bubble, which is what you'd expect really at this circuit. That's going to be the big talking point throughout this race. It's going to be obviously fast and furious for the sprint race, but it will develop a little bit more in race 2. What we are going to see though is a lot of slipstreaming and a lot of trains really here today. It's very difficult to get away from one another.
It is, but the thing is as soon as you do get away, you pretty much are away, as we see Thomas Reiter running side by side with Sean Campbell as they run back down the home stretch towards T1 again. You can see there's the Mercedes trying to get onto the back of them, just how powerful the slipstream is. They are able to run 2 abreast as they go through. Thomas Reiter has to commit to the outside. It's going to be tricky to go the long way around there as Ethan Bash tries to get himself into the mix. A great qualifying from the Scotsman in that Ford GT to round off the season, but yeah, it's going to be so close. This is going to be the theme pretty much for the entire race, of just everyone being in these little packs, but you have to play it carefully. Side by side still between Thomas Reiter and Sean Campbell as they go through into the horseshoe, but again, you have to play these sort of pack races really well, because the harder you fight, you lose the slipstream, you lose the touch of those ahead, and that can really be detrimental.
I mean, we're going to see a lot of really close racing actually through turn 1 and 2, and then into the international horseshoe as well, where things are going to get very, very close indeed, as we've just seen with this group of 5, and no doubt we'll see as well with the group of 4 just up in front as well. It's going to be pretty much like this, especially through this race. It's going to be pretty much like this throughout the entire event, so that's going to be very entertaining indeed, as Dominic Goodsell has had an absolute nightmare there. He's dropping down the order very, very quickly. I wonder if he's been off the road actually in the kink between the international horseshoe and the west horseshoe at turn 4, and where the track kind of double backs on itself, and sometimes it can recognise you on the wrong part of the circuit if you've gone wildly off the road. That may have happened to him, but further behind, John Williams and indeed Ed Vlaminck fighting side by side. As you said earlier, once you're away, you're away, so it's going to be very worrying that Dean Timms has almost broken the slipstream there.
He's trying to end his championship campaign with a couple of wins, which is always how you want to end it. He has been the man setting the standard towards the front of the field in the AMS, and has led comfortably actually in the championship over the last couple of rounds. So he's doing a fantastic job and really trying to end his season on the high, which as I say is all you really can do as a driver. You don't want to end, it's great to win a championship, but you'd rather win the race and have the satisfaction of being able to win the final races and take the championship as well. But yeah, the guys behind him are doing themselves absolutely no favour. You can see Jeremy de Boyver on the back of Daytona Vlaminck and trying to get ahead, but unfortunately can't quite do it. And as we currently say, it is just allowing Dean Timms to run away with it and have a bit more of an easy time. But I mean, it's given great action for second place. It's just not quite what they would have wanted. And obviously, naturally, the frustration for these drivers is going to start to kick in, because they know that the more they fight, the more and more likely it is that this is going to be a race for second.
It's turning into that right now. We're still there with Jeremy de Boyver. He ducked out of line and immediately just went absolutely nowhere there with that overtake. Really difficult for him to for him to do that when you're all in a train like this. This is what happened down towards turn number 1 a lap or so ago with Thomas Pugh in the Lamborghini. Are we going to go 3 wide? Not quite. Oh, Thomas Pugh made sure of that, but he also made sure he went wildly off the road into turn 1. Into the wall pretty hard as well, I'm afraid. So not good news for him. May have to repair, or may just have to suffer through the remainder of this race. But nearly 5 minutes into this one at the moment, and for now things are staying close up towards the front of both Pro and Am here right now. But I guess the concerning thing in terms of the championship, if things were to end right now, Dean Timms would be crowned champion. There's no way that he could lose it from there. Jeremy de Boyver and Ivo Linden really do need to do a little bit more, although considering his rather poor qualifying compared to where we normally expect him, Ivo Linden has done a good job on these opening laps, as the fight for the lead really does now start.
It does indeed. Alex Schrenger under a world of pressure from Harry Wills as they run 2 abreast on the exit of T1 in towards the international horseshoe. Who's going to be braver on the brakes? Of course, Harry Wills is going to be stuck on the outside line. It's going to be quite tricky for him to soar all the way around. They've got Thomas Cope in P3 as well they've got to look out for. Harry Wills given a nice wide berth on the outside. Doesn't quite have the run like the Lamborghini has, as they now run through the dog leg and of course into the next braking zone here at T5. Is he going to be brave enough on the brakes? Harry Wills once again on the outside, has to tuck in once more, and again is letting everyone else close up the gap, because Thomas Cope and of course Stuart Reynolds are in this fight. Yeah, this is going to be spicy for the lead.
It is, and Stuart Reynolds has got real grandstand seats here. Inside line for Harry Wills into turn 6 there. Always dangerous, of course, but they make their way out onto the banking again, and he is now on the inside line, the shortest way around here on this corner. Is Thomas Cope going to let him in? He will indeed. Alex Schrenger was stuck out to the high line there, and he could have been shut out by Thomas Cope, but he didn't want it, and Cope went to the high side, and so Stuart Reynolds goes to the inside line, nearly trying to take it 3 wide with Harry Wills as well. They're all side by side going towards the bus stop chicane. They all work it out, but it does mean that this group has almost doubled in size now, with John Campbell, Thomas Reiter and Ethan Bass all on the back of these guys at the moment. Well, I say Ethan Bass actually Thomas Reiter, probably the last driver on the back of this train that you could really count. It's a 6-car train for the lead, and this is going to get quite hectic into turn 1.
Can't wait to see it. This is what we love to see. This is why we come to Daytona. What a perfect venue to have the season finale. Alex Renger under a world of pressure. He's coming back at Harry Wills. Thomas Cope going to push him through on the very high line all the way to the right-hand side. It'll be the outside of T1. Is he going to be able to get Alex Renger or at least try and secure Harry Wills? Still out there. Harry Wills trying to keep it nice and tight on the inside. Forces his way through back up into second and manages to limit the damage that is taken after that move back into the race lead so far for Alex Renger. But how short-lived is it going to be? Because you have to expect that with everything going on, that people and positions are going to topsy and change all throughout this race, and nothing at all is set in stone.
No, not really. It's not going to be set in stone right until the line. We could have side by side at the line here, and that's a bit of a long range guess, I suppose, but it could well happen as this battle for now, what's third position, is really starting to kick off at the moment. Jeremy De Boyver's currently got it, very nearly contact between R.A.W.S and Dido De Vlaming there actually, but they get away with it in the end. Exactly what you said has happened though. It's allowed the leaders to get away. Dean Timms and John Williams have been able to both get themselves away, and here at Daytona there just aren't that many corners for you to kind of bridge that gap back again.
For sure, you do spend a good amount of time here on the banking, and a lot of it flat out, so you don't have the opportunity. It's all very deep in there for De Vlaming to try and close the gap on Ashraf El Haddad just in front of him. But yeah, you spend a lot of this circuit flat out at full speed, and when you're doing that, you don't have the opportunity as a driver to make the difference. Of course, you've got a limited amount of corners, as you say, to be committed, and yeah, it closes things up so much. And even if you are slightly quicker through the infield section, even if you do gain a couple of tenths, it's completely mitigated as soon as you do get to the straight, because the slipstream is so powerful, really keeps everything nice and close together. We talk about this sort of same effect at the tracks like Spa and Monza and things like that, but it is just exaggerated tenfold when you come to Daytona.
Yeah, it's just the amount of time you spend on these straights here just does make your life very difficult on occasion, as Ashraf El Haddad has just gone very wide through the bus stop chicane there. We saw Dido De Vlaming get very close to him on the exit, but then didn't really go anywhere with it, and so Ivo Linden is going to try and make his way around the very outside here around the banking towards the line as well. He does need to make up these positions, of course. Needs to finish second or higher in this race to keep it alive. Nearly 3 wide over the line here. Goodness me. El Haddad right on the inside line. Did it. If only just going through the middle. It's Ivo Linden on the outside line. Very late on the brakes. Completely on the outside. The unfavourable line into turn 1 and 2. But he looks like he's made that work through the little chicane as well. Is there going to be an opening for him at the International Horseshoe? It looks like it. Inside line on El Haddad. It looks like he's going to be in 4th place, is he? They're still going to fight over it, and this is just going to cost them even more time, but it would be very impressive if Ivo Linden could pull this off.
Very impressive indeed. He's going to try and fight it all the way to the end. The outside for this left-hander quickly becomes the inside for the next right. Here comes Dido Vlaming trying to send the move back down the outside. Nearly clips a wheel onto the grass. That would have ended in absolute disaster, but he just manages to hang on to the brake pedal and keep in touch of those in front. This is a fight a little bit further back. This with Timothy Vandenbroek, Simon Dodd, and with James Slates, and also I think with Grass just in behind them as well. But yeah, Timothy Vandenbroek, after what could have been a really good strategy to keep him in the championship fight last time out at Sebring, yeah, he's coming to Daytona and really on the back foot.
He has really. It's very difficult for those down towards the back of the field as Harry Wills takes the lead away from Alex Renger. It's been kind of strange that those leaders of the overall race have not really been chopping and changing that much over the last few laps. Everybody just staying where they are, but now things have decided to just kick off a little bit more. Inside line for the International Horseshoe for Harry Wills, and he's going to get that place. Interested to see there that Sean Campbell has lost the draft though. Not entirely sure what that's all about. You can see the Lamborghini just in the background there, about a second down. Not sure where that happened really, but it's all going to get close again. Down the inside for Stuart Reynolds here on Alex Renger, and this is the kind of battle where you need to be careful not to let the leader go, although Reynolds makes sure of that. This is just going to continue on and on till the very end. There doesn't look like there's much to separate these 5 drivers now.
Not at all. It's going to be a race of, well, of attrition to actually stay in the fight, stay consistent enough to deal with the pressure, but also just a game of strategy and mind games, just staying in the mix all the way until that sort of final lap where everything really matters, and then putting everything on the line. Right now, you know full well that these moves are provisional. Nothing is set in stone until you get to that final lap. So what is the point of pushing so hard early on if it's not going to matter? It's not worth the risk of, you know, having a bit of a spin. Of course, for R.A.W.S, he's got no risk. He's, you know, coming into this race with nothing to lose, wrapped up the championship last time out at Sebring, so he's just here for a bit of fun. But even then, for everyone else around him, fighting for those race wins, fighting for those podiums, it's not worth the risk until you get to that white flag lap. But it's not stopping them at all, because still R.A.W.S is on the defensive, trying to hang on to that race lead as Stuart Reynolds looks to the right hand side to try and go the long way round.
It depends what position you want to be in going into the final lap, really, because it might not be that beneficial to be leading. But let's see. Stuart Reynolds goes to lead briefly, but will R.A.W.S take it away from him on the outside? My goodness. 3 wide right on the outside through 1 and 2. And it looks like he's taken that. Very, very impressive indeed. Neither R.A.W.S or Stuart Reynolds could do anything about that, really. And so R.A.W.S gets back to the lead again, right on the very outside into turn 1, late on the brakes. Managed to turn 1 braking as well, which is often difficult to do without spinning off into the wall, but R.A.W.S managed it. He's managed to take the lead away, and he's gotten everyone behind him here once again. Not too long to go here in this relatively short race, really, for R.A.W.S to hold on, but it's going to be difficult. It's going to take a move like that at turn 1 to really be able to take it.
It's just R.A.W.S things, really. That pretty much sums up his season of just how dominant he has been. The fact he's just been sort of head and shoulders above everyone else. He knows exactly how to drive that car and to manipulate it around the corner. And yeah, he's just been absolutely standout performances week in, week out. This is getting a bit hectic though amongst the AMs. You can see Navarro Boiva trying to get onto the back of David Camano. We've got Calvet and Ashraf El Haddad. In fact, no, we don't have the Spaniard anymore. And nor do we have that Lamborghini in with the chance of the fight. Having a spin at T1 is very easily done, but when you reverse back onto the circuit and collect another driver, that is slightly more avoidable.
Well, it's difficult to see around there at turn 1, to be fair to him, so it's very hard to know, as that's David Fleming going off the road out of the international horseshoe. But this is what happened. There was a lot of ducking and diving and weaving around. Ashraf El Haddad got down the inside of the BMW, and there was contact made. And then reversing into the Lamborghini as well. Not sure that was intentional. I'm pretty sure it wasn't, in fact, but either way, it did happen. And there was the spin around there, unfortunately, for El Haddad, as even Bass holds on to 7th place ahead of Taylor Lane and Thomas Dandridge in this position, but still side by side between R.A.W.S and R.A.W.S up front in the pros. It's remarkable to see between those two just the fighting that they're having at the moment in this race. It has been quite remarkable. Oh, he's off the road for all sorts of drivers. I think Thomas Wright has been off the road, has he? It looks like he has. In the infield section, he's gone way down the order, I'm afraid. Where's he got to now? Yeah, way down the order, I'm afraid. So has been a problem for Thomas Wright somewhere along. He may have DNF'd actually, because I can't see him on the left-hand side anymore. But let's see, he was already side by side with Sean Campbell and Thomas Cope, and well, that's going to be a controversial one there. There was a lot of weaving around, and it would be an argument about whether Thomas Wright really shoved down on Sean Campbell there, or whether Sean Campbell went into him.
Yeah, I mean, these things happen. It's Daytona. You're racing so closely, so things are bound to happen. But yeah, I'm sure they'll talk out and things will be discussed, and yeah, they'll come to some sort of a civil agreement eventually, I'm sure. But yeah, no, that is just to be expected. It's what happens. We were saying the risks that come with running so closely in trains and packs like this. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but these things happen. You know, as we see now, Jeremy Boiva on the back of John Williams, still fighting side by side between R.A.W.S and R.A.W.S as well towards the sharp end of the pros. Is Jeremy Boiva going to look to the left-hand side of the BMW? I think he might. It will give him the inside for the bus stop chicane. He's going to claim the corner and try and straight line the exit as best he can. But of course, that's the thing. Getting the move done here is all well and good, but straight away you're already on the defensive, because if John Williams can get a good run off that chicane, leaves Jeremy Boiva quite vulnerable if he can, you know, get a good run and stay in the slipstream.
It does indeed. Is this going to be enough though for Jeremy De Boiva here? Really though, at the moment he's only in 2nd place. Does he need a little bit more here in this race? It's hard to tell. just for the moment. He might be able to get away with this finishing position, but it's going to be very close, and it's difficult to see whether he's going to be able to manage that, especially with Dean Timms right up there in first position. Of course, Dean Timms could always DNF from the second race, or something could go disastrously wrong for him. So you never ever truly know. However, it's very difficult to see Jeremy De Boyver getting back into it from this point, as Thomas Cope and Sean Campbell, the two remaining from that three-car battle we saw with Thomas Reiter earlier on, are now fighting over what is fourth place. See the front three fighting over the lead now as well. But for the moment, it's Cope versus Campbell going through the bus stop chicane. The championship is over, I suppose, but John Campbell's still looking for a good result, and it is surprising to see him struggling in qualifying outside the top 10 indeed as well.
Very strange indeed, not something we often see from Sean Campbell. But again, with how qualifying was, the slight delays that came about, they had to run qualifying again. And of course, some drivers are going to be a little bit knocked by that. But regardless of which, we're still having a great show being put on for us, because Alex Renger and Harry Wills going to run side by side once more. Is Stuart Reynolds going to get into the mix and make it 3 wide as they break down in towards T1? Harry Wills still very much on the right-hand side. Has he got the momentum to swing himself into the race lead? The answer to that question is no. Has he got the run to try and launch another attack on Alex Renger towards the International Horseshoe? And he's also got the run in order to try and stay in front of Stuart Reynolds as well, which is also crucially important. But Harry Wills, yeah, out of this 3-car train, he's probably in one of the worst positions of the 3.
Well, looks like it. Although, he could outdrag Alex Renger to the line quite possibly if they do end up on the final lap like this. But whether Stuart Reynolds will allow that or not is a different issue, really. It's very hard to see even that far into the future, even though that is only 7 minutes away. See in the background Campbell and Thomas Cope doing their best, but I think they're too far away even at this point. 7 minutes to go. Be around 4 laps remaining in this race though, so who really knows. It's going to be a very, very close finish to this one. Sean Campbell indeed set the fastest lap of his own race on that last lap, by the way, so he clearly is making inroads, but 2 seconds may just be a step too far for him. Definitely seems like Harry Wills is content with where he is at the moment, even though he is in the middle of a 3-car train, which is never ideal really. He seems to be pushing Alex Renger there and around the banking, and that does show that he might be pretty pleased with where he is, as Ethan Bass and Taylor Lane fight very hard into the bus stop chicane.
Ethan Bass always going to try and put up a fight, always going to try and be a mobile chicane and sort of get on the nerves of everyone around there. Of course, in the 4 GT as he has been all season, he has been, you know, sort of that guy that is always having to be on the defensive, and he always does a fantastic job of it. Another pair of drivers that are seemingly always on the defensive, especially in this race, is Alex Renger and Harry Wills. Of course, Stuart Reynolds still sitting idle, so not too interested, and Harry Wills again stuck on the outside. This time though, he's got a much bigger chance at it if he can keep his nose on the right hand side, but again, the short line for Alex Renger just allows him to claim the corner and stay in front once more. So once again, sort of an anticlimactic end to that one, but yeah, at least through the banking it was Alex Renger goes in quite deep. That does invite Wills back up the inside, but Alex Renger with the outside line with a better run will, you would think, have the better run and the advantage going into the next braking zone, and indeed so Harry Wills has to tack him back behind, but once again putting the pressure on and staying to the left hand side with Alex Renger just in front. We'll have to see who comes out on top of that battle, and I think it is going to be Alex Renger who stays in front for now. But talking about how Harry Wills has been so content as Ethan Bass still side by side with Taylor Lane trying to stay in front, but talking about how just Harry Wills is quite content with where he is, that seems to only apply on the banking. As soon as we get to the infield section, he seems quite feisty.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure whether he's truly going for it yet. It's hard to tell. He might well be, but it is hard to tell. We talk about Harry Wills being content, as you say, but Taylor Lane is completely uncontent with where he is at the moment. He's attacking Ethan Bass at almost every opportunity. We saw this time last lap into the bus stop chicane, which we don't see very often. But we might well do again here. Oh, he had a peak, but he doesn't want to go for it. Just wants to lay off a little bit and go for the best run possible out of those corners as Dean Timms makes his way through on a lap car. Is he on his way to the AM Championship here today? It's looking like it's more and more in his favour at the moment. As Alex Renger drops down the order. What is going on here? He drops down to 5th place. John Campbell also exchanges with Thomas Cope, but what on earth happened there? Could have been something going on into turn 1 between those guys. But that's a strange one. Alex Renger there to lose out on those positions and drop down to 5th place very suddenly. His last lap was a 45, which is not too dissimilar to where the likes of Harry Wills and Stuart Reynolds were, but all of a sudden the top 5 are completely together again, so it's been all changed at the front, and it's going to be a final 3 laps of madness by the looks of it.
Can't wait. Again, that's been the theme for this entire race, and it's nice that we got the 5-car train back at things again. But yeah, just really curious what happened to R.A.W.S. Not entirely sure, because he didn't lose heaps of time as if it was a spin or a crash or anything like that. He just sort of tumbled back behind everyone else. So yeah, interesting to see, but certainly awaiting the fight that it will be for the final few laps of this race. And of course, we've got 50 minutes reverse grid here at Daytona, which is going to be really interesting to see who can battle their way back to the front. But this is that lead fight. 5 cars in the mix. R.A.W.S, Stuart Reynolds, Thomas Cope, Sean Campbell and R.A.W.S all within the mix, all fighting for the race lead, and with only a couple of laps left to go. There are a lot of questions unanswered, but you have to say it's really just been boiling down to this.
Look at this at the moment. Stuart Reynolds very close to R.A.W.S. Everybody just gets very close. Campbell and R.A.W.S laying off here. Are the RSR boys going to steal a march on everyone here? Work together a little bit. That really would be a bit of a surprise, but this is all going to be very close towards turn number 1 here. We've got 2 laps to go when we get to the line now. This race will end up running to its 15th lap and the end of this one in a few moments, but at the moment R.A.W.S is still leading, and he's actually done a very good job through the bus stops again to hold off for this long. They all lift off in towards turn number 1. Stuart Reynolds protects his 2nd place. Sean Campbell goes down the inside of Thomas Cope and gets into 3rd. I feel like the battle for 2nd and to be in that prime position at the bus stop chicane on the final lap is it's going to be the fiercest fight. It's not going to be the battle for the lead. It's going to be the one for 2nd going into the bus stop chicane, and then it's just going to be a drag race to the line.
Yeah, that is pretty much what it's going to be. I mean, that's the thing. You want to be in 2nd place. You don't want to be 1st because, as we say, you're going to be vulnerable on that run to the line. You know, they're not going for a move down towards T1 as R.A.W.S goes for the move on Thomas Cope. Has he managed to get that one? Still, the 2 Lamborghinis run side by side. Thomas Cope leaves them out to dry on the outside line, though manages to tuck himself back in front and stay in touch of those just in front. But yeah, 2nd place, you want to have that advantage, that slipstream down to the line, because if you're in 1st, you're completely vulnerable, you're completely helpless, and you might actually end up losing a couple of places. So it's going to be that thing. You don't want to be leading coming onto the final lap, and if you are, it's sort of really, really unlucky. But that's the thing. You've got to put your car in the right places, and yeah, after 25 minutes of racing, yeah, it can come down to a bit of luck where you are at certain points in the race. But again, those that really have played their cards right will certainly come to the top.
Will. Let's see, will the grass kicked up through the bus stop chicane for the penultimate time? Is there going to be any change towards turn number 1? I'm feeling Sean Campbell is going to want that 2nd place. Stuart Reynolds is going to defend it fiercely though. Not even defending on the way down towards turn number 1 on the last lap. He didn't really need to in the end, but he did it anyway. Now let's see what he does here. He'll bump R.A.W.S a little bit. He won't try and go through, and it looks like Sean Campbell's going to try and go over both of them. R.A.W.S tries to block him up high there, and Stuart Reynolds on the inside line holding his place as well. We're nearly 3 wide in towards turn number 1 with those guys side by side into the infield in the final seconds of the race. It is so close between these guys. R.A.W.S once again defends the inside line. Sean Campbell once again given absolutely nowhere to go really. They're going to go side by side again now, Wilson and Reynolds. It's going to continue on and on the infield section. This is going to stay so close indeed. Inside line for turn 5. Gives Reynolds the lead a little bit. Outside line in towards the West Horseshoe. It looks like he's got it. Campbell around the outside as well. Is R.A.W.S going to get completely mugged here at the end? It doesn't look like it. Now they're in position. How is this going to go to the line?
Oh, Sean Campbell, the late one to the inside of this left-hander as well. Has to make sure he gets the run versus Stuart Reynolds. Gets himself up in a 2nd place. Of course, that's the prime position that he wants to be in on that dash to the line out of the bus stop chicane. And with that drag race, Stuart Reynolds is going to be absolutely hoping that he has enough of a margin. R.A.W.S pushing Sean Campbell onto the back of the leading Stuart Reynolds in towards the bus stop chicane again. Sean Campbell tries to hang on. And Stuart Reynolds taking a very, very slow line going in. It's a game of chicken as to who wants to go in first. Very late. Sean Campbell goes through into the race lead. R.A.W.S fighting with Stuart Reynolds. The more they fight, the better run Sean Campbell is going to get. Is this the margin he needs? Always R.A.W.S tries to fit in the middle. Thomas Cope through for 2nd as well. What a last lap this is.
Thomas Cope there with great driving, but Sean Campbell with the nice run through the bus stop chicane. Looks like he's got it here. He's got car length after car length, and it's not going to look too close at the end. Everybody was fighting over 2nd, but in the end, Sean Campbell surprised everybody by taking the win. He takes it just about the top 5, covered by just about a 2nd there. That was so close between those guys, but it was Sean Campbell who had the tactical mind there to just take that victory, take the nice line through the bus stop chicane, and in the end, He will add 40 points to his list there. It won't matter too much in the end, but what a great piece of driving that was. Thomas Cope there to get second. Did equally well as well, as Dean Timms comes through the banking right now to win race 1. Here, as far as the AMs are concerned as well, that is a great step for him towards an AM title. But what an ending that was in the pro category. Sean Campbell there played that to absolute perfection with the victory. But I've got to say, Thomas Cope picking his way through the field was very, very good to see as well through the final bus stop chicane.
Yeah, it was. It was, of course, Stuart Reynolds. I think him slowing down, trying to not be the leader down in towards the line, actually was his own detriment. Of course, we were talking about it, building up to it for the entire race, saying you don't want to be leading on that final stretch. But Stuart Reynolds slowed down a bit too much. Sean Campbell said, all right, I'm going to go through and absolutely floor it. Got the margin that he needed. And, of course, with everyone slowing down, Stuart Reynolds slowing down, that's what allowed Thomas Cope to then pick his way through and really, scrub his way down the middle of a couple of cars and up into second place. And, of course, with them fighting, slowing themselves down off the exit of probably one of the most important corners of the entire race, is then what gave Sean Campbell the legs that he needed. So really well judged, but overall just a really fantastic fight. And all of them arguably could have had a shot at the win, but unfortunately only one can take it.
Absolutely. And in the end it was Sean Campbell. What are we going to see in the second race? Double the length, of course. But what kind of ending are we going to have to that one? Going to be very interesting indeed. But let's get those results up and see where everybody finished after 15 laps of racing here at Daytona. We'll get them up when we can for you, but that was the 25-minute sprint race here for this one. Very, very exciting one indeed. Sean Campbell in the end taking the victory in the pros. Dean Timms took it in the AMs. Whether he take the championship later on as well is another story, but Dean Timms very much on his way to accomplishing that here very, very soon indeed. Yeah, that was a fantastic showcase of exactly what Daytona is about as a circuit. Absolutely fantastic one for racing. Don't often get to see too much sprint racing there. Obviously everybody talks about the 24-hour hit in sports cars, but yeah, in terms of sprint racing, we don't get to see it very often, and don't really know why based on that, because it was very, very entertaining indeed. Let's start with the AMs with Dean Timms taking the victory here in that one. It was Jeremy de Boyver in second place, possibly keeping his hopes alive. Ivo Linden possibly doing the same in the podium as well. John Williams was fourth out of D-Day de Vlaming. Then it was Werner Ace and Timothy Vanderbroek. Victor Bruss, James Slates finished quite a long way apart. Kurho Jensen held off David Camano to the line. Dominic Goodsell got there ahead of Navarro de Boyver and Hugge Ferrer. Then it was Thomas Pugh, Jasper Starks. Simon Dodd once again didn't have a very good showing. Neither did Ashraf El Haddad, I'm afraid, towards the bottom of the AM standings. Those guys didn't finish the race there off the bottom of your screen. But they didn't get to the end of the AM race here today. And in terms of the pros as well, we'll get them up when we can, and we'll hopefully speak to Thomas Cope as well just before we go for the quick break between the two races, because he seems to be willing to chat with us after that real frantic ending to the race for him and for everyone indeed. But yeah, in the pro standings, it was Sean Campbell who took it from him. In the end, the victory margin of 7 tenths was quite flattering, really, to Sean Campbell compared to what he dealt with throughout most of that race there. It was very flattering indeed, actually, but in the end, 7 tenths. Thomas Cope second. Stuart Reynolds, Alex Durango and Harry Wills were all in that group as well. There they are. Ethan Bass held off Taylor Lane somehow to the line. Thomas Dandridge was 8th, of Felix Pearl and Thomas Reiter rounding out the top 10. Then Liam Ahern and Chris Jansen rounding out your pro drivers. Speaking of pro drivers, we're going to bring one in right now. Thomas Cope joining us from second place. Only 6 tenths off the winner there, Thomas. It was a very close race indeed. Sean Campbell obviously getting that race win, but just talk us through that little bus stop chicane towards the end of that race there, because it was very, very chaotic indeed.
Yeah, it all started with Sean taking that dive into P1 over Stewart. They all then bottlenecked. Harry then jumped in, and they were going too wide through the bus stop. I hang back, accepting I was going to finish a little bit behind, and I was happy to finish where I was. And yeah, they were all slow on the exit. I ran it as low as I could, making sure to be above the yellow line after the cones, after the bus stop. And yeah, just managed to pull through and just hold off with the run through the bus stop and pull off that ahead of Stewart in the end as well.
I mean, it all sets you up for race 2, of course, 50 minutes long, and you're going to be starting down in 11th place, which is quite far back. But what do you expect from that second race? In the first race, things stayed very close together in the front, at least. Will that be the same in the reverse grid?
It's going to be hard to tell. I mean, the pros in skill level are very close, but sometimes some people are making mistakes and just running off. I think if everyone runs as fast as they can, it's going to be I think all the pro cars are going to stick together in one big chain and just fuel save. I know that's definitely my mindset of just wanting to save a bit of fuel going into the race, but anything can happen. We've got to at least stay with the front guys, and yeah, it's the ultimate goal is just staying as one pack and staying at the front pack, and going from there. If the car ahead starts to lack off a little bit and isn't showing the top pace, then we've all got to sort of shuffle forwards ahead of them and try and bring that gap back together in the end.
Well, let's see how it plays out. It's promising to be a very, very interesting one indeed. But Thomas, thanks very much for now. Congratulations on second place in race 1, and good luck for the second one.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thomas Cope, second place here today at Daytona in race 1. But where will he be in race 2? We're going to find out very shortly indeed. We're going to take a very quick break though, because it's time to switch over the servers and switch over the sessions into the 50-minute second race. We're going to reverse the grids as well, and when we return, 50 minutes of racing here at Daytona will be upon us. So stay with us. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship, EU Championship. It's the very final race coming up now. 50 minutes of racing here at Daytona, the very final round. And if the first race is anything to go by, then we are very much in for a very good one indeed. My name's Ian O'Leary. I'm alongside Zach Sweeney for this one. Zach, we saw a very, very good first race, actually. It was very enjoyable. Sean Campbell took the win in the end. But we were going to reverse the grid and go racing for double the length. But saying all that, Thomas Cope said that this race might be a little bit more standoff, where a lot of these drivers will actually be saving fuel rather than trying to move through the order, which is what we normally see.
Probably makes a lot of sense, actually, because as we saw in race one, you know, you're not going to hang on to positions for very long. It's better really sometimes just to sit in the train, save a bit of fuel, maybe go a little bit longer with your strategy, and that is how it's going to be won. Of course, 50 minutes, double the length of race one. There is an element of strategy in the mix. We have seen it all season long, how races can be won or lost in the pit lane, trying something a little bit different, and with Daytona being predominantly straight and the banking, you are using quite a lot of fuel. You're usually towards the higher new rev range. You're demanding a lot of the engine, so you're naturally using a lot more fuel, which they're going to run out of those fuel tanks very, very quickly. So it will be quite sensible just to save a bit of fuel, but also you can't sacrifice track position as well, because when it comes to that final lap, you don't want to be towards the tail end of the grid, because we saw even in race one, there was quite a lot of field spread. You know, we had the top five, then a pretty big gap back to Ethan Mass and that sort of fight for P6. So, yeah, you can't sacrifice too much for the sake of fuel.
No, you can't. I mean, as you mentioned, the fuel is limited. 50% of the maximum is all that these guys are allowed at one time for these cars. So you're not going to be able to do the entire race as you otherwise might. And that does add a layer. But will anybody be able to save enough fuel somehow to be able to go the whole way here? This is a quick run of the pro grid with Charlton Hearn on the front row. You can see Reiter and Pale just in behind the teammates. And there are the AM leaders as well. Simon Dobb once again starting on the AM pole, as he has done for a few weeks now. Elshraf Al-Haddad will be alongside him. Further down, the championship contenders Ivo Linden, Jeremy De Boyver and also Dean Timms will be starting in the very final three places on this grid here today. It's another 29 car grid here, so we are missing one from before. However, not going to matter too much. We're still going to see a fantastic end to the season. It's the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 EU Championship. And so we're ready to get underway once again. 50 minutes to round it off. And immediately we're underway. Chris Johnson not waiting around for anybody there with that start. He's immediately away. Liam Ahern caught asleep really on the outside line. Thomas Reiter immediately able to go down to the inside and take that second place away. He is one to watch throughout this race. He is a strong driver. His teammate though is into the wall. Felix Pearl somehow wasn't collected by some of those behind either. That's remarkable. But he has gone into the wall out of turn two, and it will be difficult for him from here with damage at this kind of circuit as Simon Dobb gets us underway in the AM category. He's pretty used to doing this by now. He's been up the front in the last 3 weeks now. Will he be able to take a third race 2 win in a row?
Oof, that was, I mean, it's a bold statement to say this early on, but he certainly has looked good in the second race. And Nevada Boy running side by side, that is with Jasper Sharks for P4 on the run towards the International Horseshoe. The two Porsches run side by side. The number 4 on the inside, a bit of contact. The 72 is being sent round. Jasper Sharks is going to drop to the tail end of this grid and be knocked out of slipstream contention. Maybe a bit of netcode in the mix there. It didn't look like there was any major contact, not enough certainly to send Sharks spinning round, but Jeremy De making some quick work through. Dom Goodsell as well. Ooh, another bit of contact. He's sent round facing backwards, goes back onto the track. Oh my word, what a crash, what a big crash. God, Dom Goodsell is sent pirouetting around and around into the runoff area, and well, that definitely could have been cleaner.
Right, certainly could have been. That's exactly why you don't just get back onto the circuit in that manner there, because it can create crashes of that kind of magnitude there, and that was quite spectacular, and not in a good way either, I'm afraid, for anybody involved there, as this is all getting very close. 3 wide indeed. Liam Ahern doesn't want any piece of this. He's going right high there to get out of the way. Stuart Reynolds is already through into 4th place here, with Alex Urenga not too far behind. Thomas Dandridge getting pushed down the order here as well. To be fair to the leaders here, they're already in a fight for 3rd place, so they made great progress here early on. And there isn't much waiting around going on right now. We will see that a little bit later on, but for the moment, on lap 1, they've been making good progress.
But now, at the very least, as you say, it's not really been, as Thomas Cope said, which is everyone's going to be nice and sensible. at least for the opening lap, that is, as we see maybe even 3 abreast in the AMS, David Cremano, and I believe that is Slate and Farah as well, I think, getting into the mix down towards T1. Everyone's settling in single file for the time being. But yeah, no, amongst the pros, it's really kicking off. Amongst the AMS as well, it's really kicking off. Big fields amongst the pair of them. So yeah, it's naturally going to happen. But those towards the front of race 1 really haven't waited around at the start of race 2. And as I say, trying to get that track position, getting themselves into a nice group early on. And as Thomas Cope actually said in the interview, you don't want to be forcing yourself to stay behind someone who's not quite on the pace. If they're, if just for the sake of saving fuel, if they're slowing you down, you've got to get through.
You have, really. This is what happened further behind. It was Dom Goodsell off the road, came back on, and Ivo Linden was the one who got really clattered into him there. The whole front end ripped off of that car. Dom Goodsell sent barrel rolling towards the barriers there, but they both come off pretty badly, and there's a lot of damage onto that car now. We said that Team Tims had all but won that AM Championship. Well, that's certainly confirmed now. Jeremy De Boyver is going to have to pull off a near miracle here, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it at all. It's below the yellow line there for James Slates trying to make his way through. That is certainly not allowed.
Not at all down there. That's a little bit dodgy from him, but again, you've got to fill the space that you've been given, and yeah, for him that certainly was the better place to go. Not quite the quickest way around the circuit, but yeah, no, he's at least trying, and that just goes to put into perspective how chaotic this race is so far. Dean Tim's trying to make some quick work through. He knows that the championship is pretty much as good as his, as we say with Ivo van der Linden not having the best races. Jeremy De Boyver only at the moment in P8, make that P7 as he gets himself ahead of Calvert, and up into 7th place, trying to work his way towards the front. But as we say, it's a big points gap to close in only one race. But an uncharacteristic mistake from Dean Tims as off goes John Williams as he makes contact with Calvert, I think it was, or John Williams made contact with Calvert and sent him round. But still even more chaos to describe on these opening few laps.
Oh, and off the road spectacularly for Nara De Boyver, who just didn't even make an attempt at making that corner, it looked like. But it just went straight off for the International Horseshoe for whatever reason. Number of problems here. This is the one for Jorge Ferrer, who was on the outside line here. De Boyver and was it John Williams, or was it may have been. There was certainly contact with the Ferrari, and they sent Ferrer around. Oscar Copa, by the way, has joined us for this race. It's pretty much his only appearance of the season. We just got a glimpse of him there. A very strong GT3 driver, of course, another RSR team member, of course, down in 9th place at the moment. But yeah, he's making an appearance for the first time as we've got most of the same runners right up towards the front here. We've got 5 for the lead. The only driver missing at the moment is, well, who is missing right now? I think Sean Campbell, who hasn't attended this race here today. Also, this second race, after winning race 1, he's resting up for the US race and not feeling fantastic. So resting up for the US Championship race where he's hoping to clinch the title. But for the most part, the other 4 are right up here. The top 6 are getting away, and it's all the usual suspects. All the people you'd expect to be here are here.
Yeah, no surprises at all. Chris Chatterton as well, starting from Poland, is in the mix with these guys, running in P4 for the time being. To the inside goes Alex Jarenga, though, gets the move done late on the brakes. Is Thomas Cope going to follow him through? I think that is going to be the case. So Chris Chatterton just getting absolutely forced open there by the two of Alex Jarenga and Thomas Cope, just to force the gap open and find their way up an extra couple of places and to keep themselves in the mix of this slipstream. Thomas Reiter leads from Harry Wills, Stuart Reynolds, Alex Jarenga and Thomas Cope, your top 5, pretty much as they were in race 1. It's been so close and great to see between all of them, but is it now going to settle down and start to play into what Thomas Cope was saying before race 2?
Let's see. I mean, it's difficult to predict what's going to happen in these races. I do agree with him, though. I think it is going to settle down soon. Oh dear, James Slates goes for a spin. Dean Tim's able to just nip around that smartly and is able to get up into the 6th position there through the West Horseshoe, but not good for James Slates, I'm afraid. He nearly drops outside the top 10 there with that spin. Everybody gets promoted up a further place, but this is exactly what Dean Tims needs to do. I mean, he really needs a disaster to lose this championship. The reverse grid start is really where you're most likely to lose it, really, with so much chaos going on. But he's gotten through this early portion of the race with relative ease, really.
He has, and again, he's just driving for comfortability at this rate. As you say, fighting for the championship, you don't want to be taking any ridiculous risks and fighting his way through, similar to Eva Linden, as you say. These early races, early parts of the race, I should say, is where it can all go wrong. And it went very, very wrong for Eva van der Linden. Dean Timms managed to keep his nose clean and now running comfortably in 6th place, which is enough, especially with Jeremy de Boyver, 1.5 seconds off David Camano for what is P4. So yeah, Dean Timms at the moment, he's just driving. Of course, as I said in race 1, it's nice to end the season off and your championship off with a good result, winning the race. But at the end of the day, you'd rather take a P6 and take the championship as he lets John Williams through. Goes in a bit wide in towards T1, but again, for him, it's not worth the risk of fighting tooth and nail for P6.
It's definitely not. He just needs to stay up there. At the moment, he needs to finish pretty much last in this race, and for now, that is certainly not happening. He's having a strong one for now, as Liam Ahern has just gone back to the pit lane as well. The top 5 or 6 remain up the front of the field, but Liam Ahern has gone back to the pit lane for whatever reason. Not entirely sure why. Stuart Reynolds loses the front of the train as well up here. They come through the bus stop chicane now. Things are starting to get a little bit normal again. Thomas Reiter obviously did benefit from the reverse grid, but he's not got an undeserving place up the front here. Depends what they decide to do with him now, really. Will Harry Rules just go straight through here? Will Alex Orenga do the same? Or will there be movement here? It looks like we've finally got a little bit of calm up here at the front. If that was last lap or even the lap before, we would have seen overtakes going on there, but I think everybody's realised this is the moment now where it's time to calm down a bit.
Yeah, there's no point fighting so hard until you get to those final stages. As Thomas Cope said in the interview, calm down, save a bit of fuel, think about strategy, think about long game. It's a 15-minute race, of which you've got 41 minutes left of. Still a long way to go. Obviously, relative to a lot of endurance races, it's still a sprint, but in terms of this race, you've got to think long term. You've got to be thinking, do I want to be pushing so hard this early on for nothing? You're not going to get any reward. It's a high risk for literally no reward. You've got to be planning your things out, seeing what position you can be going on to those final couple laps, because that's what decided race number 1. Is just being in the best position come the crucial points, and that is the exit of the bus stop chicane on the final lap. So yeah, for Thomas Reiter, he doesn't really want to be leading. He's getting no slipstream. He's not alleviating any pressure off the engine or anything like that. He's using the full load of fuel, and it's just playing into the hands of Harry Wills, Alex Orenga, Thomas Cope, Chris Chatterton, who are all in tow and just saving fuel with each passing lap. Is all in towards T1. There's Navarro de Boyver going round, and was there a bit of contact there, or did he just lose it by himself?
I think there was contact. There's certainly been contact previously with this car, because you can see the rear wing there very much damaged for De Boyver. Side by side here, that might be Vanderbroek on the outside, and I'm not sure. Is there contact? Oh no, there isn't contact. It's just a very difficult braking zone indeed. In towards turn number 1 and 2 there. I mentioned it earlier on when Alex Orenga took the lead 3 wide on the outside. It was very impressive because it's just so difficult to do that corner without spinning on your own. Never mind while overtaking, like we're seeing here almost. 3 wide, Thomas Reiter in the middle. He could be 4 from first here very soon. Thomas Cope goes to the front. They all go through, and him. Alex Orenga once again on the outside line, braking late, and it looks like he's made it work once again. Harry Wills making the inside line work, and he's going to end up side by side for the lead here. So the calm didn't last very long at all, and we're over 10 minutes into this race now, and everybody still fighting this one out.
Absolutely side by side still between Harry Wills and Alex Orenga. That was something we saw a lot of in race 1. It's continued into race 2. Alex Orenga opts to just lift off and back out of that one and tuck in behind, but fantastic chain of corners for Thomas Cope. Looking to the inside goes Thomas Reiter on Alex Orenga into the West Horseshoe. Again, opts to stay in single file, and you can just see the top 7 is Stuart Reynolds and Ethan Bass get themselves back into the mix, separated by virtually nothing on the track. Only a car length in between each driver, and with 7 drivers, there's absolutely not much in it whatsoever. But yeah, it's strange that they're really going at it, and the person that ironically, the person that said it's going to be nice and calm, we're going to try and save a bit of fuel, was the one that initiated the fight for the race lead and went 3, nearly 4 wide to get himself there.
Yeah, it is bizarre, but sometimes when you see others doing stuff around you, you just kind of join in almost, and that's what Thomas Cope has done there to get the lead. You just follow others through, and that's how Thomas Cope has found himself in this position. But is it going to last very long? Well, it doesn't look like it. Harry Wills very close indeed behind, and there's all sorts going on behind here as well. Dean Timms kind of remaining where he is and looking to consolidate this position. Camano on the defensive at the moment in the BMW, but not going to put up too much of a fight here, you wouldn't imagine. We're not going to be able to. It benefit from the reverse grid, of course, and so should get beaten out by John Williams and Dean Timms here. But let's wait and see. Kano has actually moved up himself here, but either way, he will get passed by John Williams and Dean Timms now, who have moved up further, indeed, in this race. Not quite as far in as Jeremy De Boyver, though, who is in 4th place at the moment. I think that's 12 positions gained off of the start for him, from starting way down the field. Dean Timms, though, looking to make his way through and make this 11 in the Mercedes. Well, which way is he going to go? Outside line, seems to do. Through the tri-oval here. The BMW seems to have pretty good straight line speed, actually. And Dean Timms is not going to be too eager to brake late and risk it all around the outside here, but he's going to have to. And he does make his way around. He's a bit deep under brakes, but he does make it through. And up to 6th place for Dean Timms. So he's done the bare minimum there. That's exactly what he needs to do. Just get in front of those who are a little bit slower, just up in front. And then save a bit of fuel on those who are a bit faster than you up in front there as well. But that was a very good calculating risk there from Dean Timms.
Again, you've got to calculate the risk. You've got to weigh up the risk and the reward and what can happen if it all goes wrong. So, yeah, Dean Timms, leading the championship, securing the championship at this rate, unless, has some catastrophic end to this race and DNFs and Jeremy De Boyver somehow manages to clinch it, which is incredibly unlikely. We're not going to try and push that narrative because chances are it's not really going to happen. As in fact, talking of which, Jeremy De Boyver gets himself up into P3, so really making some steady progress though to the front two of Ashraf El-Haddad and Simon Dodd. It's a margin of around about a couple of seconds, which is going to be hard to close. This is how we've done it. Coming out of the left-hander, going on to the banking again, just getting a better run than the Lamborghini of Thomas Pugh. Up the inside, much shorter run, and there's really no point fighting the much faster number 14 Porsche coming through.
Oh dear, he cuts him off as well, makes absolute sure of it. Onto the racing line, going into the bus stop chicane, and gets it, and gets 3rd place there. Let's go further back up towards the front though with El-Haddad and Simon Dodd. El-Haddad seems to be trying to get rid of the Ferrari driver right now, but not able to. On paper, you would say El-Haddad is a bit quicker. But Dodd with this slipstream here will not only be able to stay in touch, but also save a bit of fuel, and will that benefit him by the time we get to the pit stop phase? It's hard to know, but just for the moment, Simon Dodd is in a great place. That both of these two are really, although De Boyver already being in 3rd is not fantastic news for them. He's only just under 7 seconds away, so he might get to them here today, unlike they managed for the previous 2 weeks in the second race, where Simon Dodd has indeed taken the victory. But for now, it's 2 leaders in AM, El-Haddad versus Simon Dodd, and I think both of these two are pretty pleased with where they're at right now. Although you've got to be worried if you're El-Haddad about Simon Dodd's fuel saving here.
You do. You have to be wary, because when it comes to the pit stop phase, Simon Dodd is going to have a little bit of fuel in reserve, or he might go a little bit longer. Either way, he's going to have to fill up his car less, which in turn is going to give him a much shorter pit stop and could give him the short pit stop time that he needs to get the overlap versus El-Haddad and get in front. So that's why Simon Dodd is just chilling. He's happy to sit in 2nd place. El-Haddad is going to be having a bit of a tough time trying to calculate things and see how it's going to work out. But Simon Dodd is putting himself into prime position. Jeremy De Boyver as well, going to try and get himself into the mix. His pace certainly is good, quicker than the pair of them. In fact, as I say, Simon Dodd actually gets himself into the race lead as we focus the action between our top, I think this is stretching down to P6 of Stuart Reynolds. So yeah, still all to play for on the pros, and yeah, a lot of interesting narratives as well in the AMs.
Even Bass might be on the back of this as well in 7th place, but I'm not entirely sure. It is all certainly concertinaing up right now, and the lap times have certainly got out of this group a little bit. Ethan Bass trying to get back involved again after his best lap of the race so far on the previous lap. That's allowed him to close up quite a lot so far, and he should get the slipstream now as they make their way through the banking again. But this is the thing really with the fuel saving and the calming down. Well, Thomas Cope it's all well and good him leading the group, and Harry Will's fuel saving, then Urenga will, then Reiter will, and so it goes on down. But it's only really beneficial when the leading car is going as fast as possible. When they're not doing that and they're lifting off wildly into the corners anyway, it doesn't really help too much because everybody's saving a bit of fuel. So I think Thomas Cope is playing this very smartly. He's driving with it himself. He's trying to save fuel to try and keep up with those guys. and it's just causing the pace to go completely out of this group.
It is, and obviously well played for Thomas Cope. He knows that R.A.W.S and Alex Sharenga behind aren't going to be too interested in going for the race lead, so he knows that, yeah, I can just lift and coast here and there to try and keep some fuel, because if he doesn't, then he's going to fall to the back of this train come the end of the race. So he's playing this to absolute perfection. We'll have to see how well his fuel saving tactics are when we get to the pit stop phase. And coming got off at the bus stop chicane, just completely left hand down the exit, finds the barrier, reverses back onto circuit. Joey DeWolver through, Thomas Pugh through, John Williams as well, same too with Dean Timms and D. Dave Laminick. He's going to tumble down the order down to P7, obviously with a stricken ego and with maybe a damaged car to go along with it. But what looked so good for Simon Dodd just came all undone. It was such a weird incident as well.
We're just getting a little bit out of shape. Oh, and that's a very hard hit on the wall. A dead stop as well. It's going to do a lot of damage to the car there, I'm afraid. And he was in such a good position, but it's all gone away from him now. It's allowed everybody to move up a place inside the top 10. As Bashar will be taking up that final place inside the top 10. But yeah, Simon Dodd, so disappointing. Just got really a lot of oversteer on the way in to the bus stop chicane. Couldn't catch it in time. Ended up going face first into the wall. It's off the road for Jeremy De Boyver for whatever reason at the International Horseshoe. That's something you see very often, especially on your own. I wonder if he was in a fight with Thomas Pugh maybe. He was the closest driver, but he was completely on his own by the looks of things. His brakes were way too late. Did exactly what Navarro De Boyver did with some irony there, and hit the wall as well. I mean, any damage here at this circuit is really going to hurt you because of these straights. It's yeah, going to cost you more than it would at other circuits, that kind of mistake.
Yeah, any mistake is just going to be exaggerated. You know, it's costly because, like other circuits, yes, there's limited places to gain that time up, but especially here at Daytona, so anything is just exaggerated and really, you know, pulled out a lot. So it's difficult to make back up that time, and unfortunately for Jeremy De Boyver, that's going to probably be his chances of a race victory or even a podium over. A bit of action amongst the tail end of this train as Ethan Bass and Stuart Reynolds also got a little bit spicy towards the tail end, but all calm for the front three of Thomas Cope, R.A.W.S and Alex Sharenga. A couple of people into the pit lane, Chris Chatterton and Thomas Dandridge both in. Are they for scheduled stops? Surely they can't be, considering the fact that we're only, you know, not even halfway through this race.
Well, I think they actually might be. 14 seconds for Chatterton, 15 for Coper. It's a little bit on the long side, but not too long so that it points towards an issue. I think Chatterton's just trying to get out of this group. Now, the only explanation I have for that really is because if we look at the last lap times, Thomas Cope did a 44.6, which is nearly 2 seconds slower than what he can do. I think that Chris Chatterton has decided I can make it to the end here if I fill up now, and I'll be able to go quicker even on my own than these guys will in a group, because the fuel saving has gotten so much, it's gotten so slow in this front group that actually Chris Chatterton believes he might be able to go quicker on his own. And so he's just rolled the dice here, and he'll just have to pray really that we're not going to see the pace really increase in this group. We'll have a look at the lap times when Cope comes over the line here, but Chatterton, I think, has made a really nice call here, unless, of course, he really starts to slow down again towards the front, which may well happen as they realise what's going on. Thomas Cope makes his way through NASCAR turn 3 and 4 right now up on the banking. Nobody will respond by the looks of things by going into the pit lane. Thomas Cope picked up the pace, because if he has, then Chris Chatterton is going to be in a bit of trouble. He has, certainly. 42.9 there from Thomas Cope. I think the Olympus Esports driver has realised what's happening here, and he's not going to let Chris Chatterton and Oscar Cope really sell him for a dummy here and take the lead away. Cope has just put a little bit more pace back into this race, but then again, he'll be burning more fuel than the drivers behind, so it's not really beneficial to him.
It's a complicated one really, and one that will only be answered when we get to the checkered flag, because yeah, it's just that thing that Thomas Cope definitely has got more pace in him, but he doesn't want to, as you say, run the risk of burning too much fuel when it comes to the pit stop. So Chris Chatterton, Oscar Cope, those that have come into the pit lane, are going to be trying to push as hard as possible to obviously run a little bit quicker, which is difficult, but when you don't have the slipstream. But if Thomas Cope is going slow, but now we sort of shifted into gear, it really does shake things up a little bit. We'll, as I say, only really find out when everyone comes into the pit lane and see how it files out. But It's an interesting strategy. It's one that we haven't really seen all season, apart from when we saw Timothy Vandenbroek do it at Sebring, come in really early, try and get some clear air and push towards the checkered flag. That didn't quite work out for him purely because of how close the timing was onto the final lap. Could Chris Chatterton do a similar thing? But yeah, Ethan Bass pushing really hard. And actually, just a bit of a side note, how well Ethan Bass is doing. Of course, yes, it's Daytona, yes, the slipstream's keeping him in touch, but for a Ford GT to stay with the likes of Thomas Cope, Harry Wills, Alex R.A.W.S, that's not too bad.
It's absolutely not too bad. What a story it would be as well for him to get a great result here. I'm sure the neutrals at home will be rooting for him. As we got in the pit lane as well, Stuart Reynolds. Now the games really do begin. You can see here Ethan Bass gaining very quickly indeed. Thomas Cope once again slowing down a bit more on this lap. He was a 44.1. We're back to the previous lap times, and Ethan Bass not waiting around. He's going in front of Thomas Reiter here as well. He does not want to wait here by the looks of things. Chatterton will see his lap time when he comes over the line as well. But it looks like the pace just going away once again. Thomas Cope just slowing down a bit. It's allowing a lot of fuel saving, but what is happening to the gap with Chris Chatterton? Stuart Reynolds exits the pit lane right now. And if Reynolds can just get together with Chatterton a little bit, then maybe the two of them can work together to go a little bit quicker. Unfortunately, Chatterton has been losing a bit of time. He's not been as quick. However, there he goes. There's Chatterton on the right-hand side. Excuse me, that's a lap car. Chatterton's just coming up now. You can see him, so he's right with Reynolds. I think if these two get together, and if this goes on for too much longer, then they could be catapulted into the lead here on this pit stop cycle.
It's very good to have a partner to slipstream of. You can, slingshot off each other side by side, as we see Thomas Pugh on the outside of Dave Laminate going through the International Horseshoe. You're going to run side by side between the pair of them. But yeah, talking about that pair, Chris Chatterton and Stuart Reynolds, bit of an off actually for Dean Timms, just in behind, tipping a wheel onto the grass as Thomas Pugh backs out. But yeah, Chris Chatterton and Stuart Reynolds are going to do a great job, I'm sure, working together. They have to have that mutual agreement, though. It has to be a two-man agreement in that sense, that they, it can't just be one trying to work together and the other one trying to get in front, because then it just doesn't work. They have to both see the long game benefits of working together, and it could realistically, as you quite rightly say, catapult them up. But now we're starting to see that I think it was the catalyst for the first round of pit stops, because Alex R.A.W.S, a driver that typically goes out longer than everyone else, is now in before the likes of Thomas Cope and Harry Wills. So yeah, it's an interesting one, this strategy.
Alex R.A.W.S comes in. I think he's realised that Reynolds and Chatterton might be onto something. But let's see. Vickers PL also in. That will prove pretty inconsequential as part of the race leading battle anyway, since he was a few seconds off the back. Alex R.A.W.S leaving the pit lane already. Another shorter stop. He's put about a second off Reynolds' stop, who cut about a second off Chatterton's, although they were roughly similar. Come towards the line now. There they are. Just exchanging positions to try and gain as much speed as possible. Alex R.A.W.S already leaves the pit lane. How far in front is he? Well, too much. Let's see, where is he on the exit? Can't see him on the left-hand side just for the moment, but it looks like he has done enough here. R.A.W.S has stayed in front. It's by a fairly hefty margin, actually, as well. The gap about a second and a half, so maybe for Reynolds and Chatterton they didn't quite get long enough to do this, and maybe R.A.W.S hasn't been able to get the teammates that he was hoping for, and now on his own he may well struggle compared to the four out front.
He may well do, and he's got to do all the hard work himself. He needs to hope that Thomas Cope is trying to slow everyone down just a little bit, but that last lap of 43.7, not too bad in terms of pace. So yeah, again, it's going to be tricky for Alex R.A.W.S, Stuart Reynolds and Chris Chatterton to get into the mix. It was actually quite close when you think about it. Both Thomas Cope and Thomas Reiter into the pit lane. So now Harry Wills and Ethan Bass have been released. Still both of them as a coupler, which I think is really, really important to have that partner to slipstream off and stay close on track with. But yeah, it's a tricky one for Alex R.A.W.S, because now he's just sort of in no man's land. He's got no partners with him, and that engine is having to do all the hard work. He's having to fight really hard through the infields to extract any bit of time. So it's going to be really interesting. He's now coming through the banking on the way in towards T1 now as Thomas Cope exits the pit lane. So I think it's going to stay Thomas Cope in front of Alex R.A.W.S.
Right, see, he certainly stayed in front of Thomas Reiter there. And of course, we're not using the extended pit lane that we have in real life these days, just going straight out and pushing as hard as possible down this very narrow exit indeed. R.A.W.S comes through turn one as well. He's not even got ahead of Reiter here. It looks like Thomas, well, oh dear, he has actually. Urenga has got in front of Reiter, but not in front of Thomas Cope. Urenga very nearly getting the overcut there, and look how close the Audi got through the International Horseshoe as well. This is very, very close indeed. However, the danger for Reynolds and Chatterton is that those three are going to get away from them now. Look how close this is through the International Horseshoe. Urenga almost pulling straight in front of Reiter there. That very nearly ended in disaster for the both of them, but not much has actually changed in those threes battle there. A lot was promised, but in the end, not too much change between them.
Which I guess is actually quite good in a sense, because it keeps them close and keeps them all in the mix when it comes to the final sort of few laps. So again, that's going to be something to play into their hands and something to look out for. This is Jorge Ferrer getting the move done down the inside and up into what I believe to be P9, unless that was a lap car, but does the job to the inside anyway. And yeah, it's again, I'm just glad it's kept close, because what usually happens when it comes to pit lane, especially in pack racing, is sometimes people have slightly longer pit stops than others, and they come out sort of spaced out quite a little bit, and you know, sort of matched on pace, so much so that they can't close the gap, can't get back into the slipstream range. Whereas now we've got Thomas Cope, Alex Urenga, Thomas Reiter all within that bubble of slipstream chains and all that. So it does just keep everyone nice and close. So while Alex Urenga might have not done the strategy master class that he would have thought he'd have done, he's still certainly in the mix, and yeah, it's still going to be quite entertaining, I'm sure, to the end of the race.
It should be. Unless, of course, Wills and Bass can really steal something, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. A little bit further down, this is Ferrer versus Vanderbroek, by the way. We really had a very promising start to race 2 at Sebring last week, of course, but it all fell apart just towards the end when he didn't have enough fuel for the final lap. And unfortunately, with it went his championship hopes. Judging by his Daytona performance here today, it might not have mattered anyway. But even so, he was very disappointed to be denied that opportunity 1 week ago. James Slates and David Camano also fighting over 5th place right now. Ashraf El Haddad currently leading. He was a championship contender at one point. That was El Haddad. I don't know where he's ended up now, but he is a lot further down. He's down in 13th now, but that's mainly because ever since the halfway mark in this season, he hasn't really been attending the races, unfortunately, since the break week. He's not been here very often, and so that's put him quite a long way down, but his pace is very much up there, and he's currently leading this race nearly half an hour in to this one right now, doing a decent job. But we are playing a bit of a waiting game. Some of the pit stops have happened, but some of them haven't, so we're waiting for those who haven't stopped to come in, and then we will really know who is in contention for this race lead, because at the moment it's going to be Thomas Cope, Alex Urenga and Thomas Reiter. They're making sure that it's only going to be those three. Look at Urenga pushing Cope there. That is not a driver who wants to invite more people to this party.
It is not. He gets the message and wants to work together, push them down, and just increase their overall speed relative to those around them. So yeah, again, it's a strategy game from Alex Urenga. He certainly knows what he's doing. Is Thomas Reiter also in on the on sort of the scheme that they've got going on? It seems so, that it's going to be all three of them working as a triplet, trying to improve their lap time as a three, because when Harry Wills and Ethan Bass come in, they're not going to be stopped for particularly very long for the final, sort of 20 minutes of this race. So they don't want to be fighting out too early now, because all they're going to do is drag themselves down, and they know even if they do start fighting, as we saw in race 1, they're not going to get anywhere with it. It's going to be all risk, losing time, harming their own races for absolutely nothing. So they're going to save it, I think. Just put everything aside for a moment, work together now, get themselves into the prime position, and then when it comes to the final couple of laps, that's then when they can fight.
Alex Urenga really has a great understanding of this. His practical knowledge at this stage has been very, very good indeed. Knows exactly what he needs to do. He's executing it right now, trying to encourage Thomas Cope almost to fall into line with this as well, because you can just see the Olympus car staying on a defensive line a little bit longer than Urenga would maybe like, and it maybe just taking a bit of speed away from them as well. But let's see as they go towards 3 and 4, NASCAR 3 and 4 anyway. See if this happens once again. Thomas Reiter also very close here, and wonder what Urenga's going to do to try and keep him in line as well. Very difficult to kind of keep control of everybody here, and we're about to go inside the Lamborghini, because these two are now connected, bumping all the way up the straight, and there's just no way you can compete with that when you're Stuart Reynolds in behind. He actually made a bit of a mistake through the bus stop chicane, so he's now fighting with Chatterton behind. Thomas Reiter very nearly gets involved as well, but these three are going so quickly. Harry Wills and Ethan Bass has recently made a mistake, so they're now driving on their own. It could well be that these three have stolen a march on everybody and they get away to the line together.
Be perfect for them. This is what happened to Jorge Calvert Freire in, just understeering a little bit, going onto the grass and then bringing it to a stop, which is very strange. I'm assuming he just escaped back to the pit lane. This is Felix Pial, who hasn't had the best races either, and oh my word, that is an Audi coming to a very sudden stop, but also a really weird incident where he just completely straight lined it into the barrier. So whether he'd just given up or his steering wheel had just given up, that is certainly a shame to end his season.
It is. I'm not sure either whether he gave up or whether technical failure did, because at the 4 hours of Le Mans on Saturday, he did have a technical failure there as well, which put Pandawan out of contention for a great result that possibly could have resulted in a podium for them, alongside Thomas Reiter, who's currently in 5th place. So, yeah, that's a disappointment for Felix Pial, no doubt about that, as Ethan Bass comes in now. This is the fight for 3rd place. Tom Williamson, Dean Timms and David Camano all together at the moment. Dieter de Vlaming has somehow gotten away from these guys, who was leading them around earlier, but somehow he's managed to detach himself. Not sure if these two got engrossed in a bit of a fight. I think they may well have been, may well have done so. That's the only way really you can get away at this circuit. Ethan Bass makes his way out the pit lane now. Not sure what happened to him or what mistake he made really. But unfortunately, he will drop now away and well outside the top 5, unfortunately, in that Ford as Dean Timms comes into the pit lane. But I think it's worth giving a bit of a shout out to Ethan Bass, who's soldiered on with that Ford all season long, and he's been a fan favourite for sure as well. One of our favourites as well, because we love a bit of variety of manufacture up here in the commentary box. And a decent season for him, considering everything will come to an end here today with a 7th place here in race 2. And he's done well, soldiering on all season long with that car.
I've always had respect for him. I've always looked out for him to see how he's getting on, and he's always put on a show in that little Ford. He's the underdog. He's here, trying just to salvage something out of a Ford that, even with the balance of performance in iRacing, isn't particularly quick anywhere you put it. Talking to Will Chadwick and trying to get the Ford set up to a point where it's actually competitive, he said, absolutely not. I tried setups, I did countless hours of testing, trying to make him competitive, and I just couldn't. So the fact that Ethan Bass has had a good of a season as he has is pretty respectable. And so we see finally Harry Wills into pit lane, comes to open Harry. Alex Renger still working together nicely actually, to push their way up and maintain that quick pace that they had. It'll be close, I'm sure, with Harry Wills, and this might be a 3-horse race, turn 4 for the final 15 minutes of this race. But yeah, Ethan Bass, he's done phenomenal. He's had the opportunity at some really good results, but unfortunately with the Ford and some mistakes as well, it's just sort of fell through. So there's certainly a lot of potential to be had, but even despite that, yeah, as you say, he's had a really good season.
He has. Let's see where Harry Wills comes out though. Will he be involved with these three? Will it be these two? Because Alex Arenga and Thomas Cope are getting away from Thomas Reiter almost here. It is difficult, but they're getting a bit of a margin. Let's see, where is Harry Wills? He's going to be behind these guys, but he's going to be able to grab the slipstream. There you can just got a glimpse of him on the left-hand side. Will he be close enough to stay involved? It looks like he will. He's done just enough there. And that was very close indeed. Very good laps actually from Harry Wills. He must have been absolutely flying out there, because when you're on your own versus 3 drivers working together like this, it is very difficult at Daytona. So Harry Wills' laps there must have been absolutely phenomenal, really.
Absolutely. It's as I say, you're doing all the hard work on your own. You've got Thomas Cope, Alex Renger and Thomas Reiter pushing each other and increasing their speed through the banking, and that's just going to bring their lap times down. But Harry Wills held firm and did a fantastic job, and he's put himself really into the mix. P4 on the back of Thomas Reiter, and now is going to be given it full beans for the final 15 minutes of the race. Not long at all, and Harry Wills did really well at Monza, which again was a slipstream circuit, keeping him in the mix. And now at Daytona, are very similar in terms of driving style. How you have to approach the 2 races is again coming to the limelight and really, putting himself in the spotlight and just being up there consistently across both races. Harry Wills has had sort of an up and down season in the EU Championship, but when he has had his highs, he's really had the highs, and trying to push as hard as he possibly can to wrap it up with a good result.
Absolutely. Let's see what happens here now between these 4. Stuart Reynolds trying to get involved as well, but struggling to just get onto the slipstream. I think Urenga is pushing Cope even still to try and keep Reynolds away here in the final 15 minutes. Harry.W.S looking strong as well, trying to get Thomas Reiter into the mix, and we've almost got a four-car train at the moment, or two pairs maybe, because Urenga and Wills look to be the strongest, certainly a straight line of those guys, but when you took out of line like Harry.W.S just did, it is very difficult, although Thomas Reiter will just try and prove everyone wrong and go down the inside towards turn 1 and 2 there, steams it in. In the end, Alex Urenga pushed to the outside line. Harry.W.S looks like he's going to follow through as well, and he does do that into third place. Nice driving indeed. This has allowed Reynolds to get involved, but the fighting has begun, the jockeying for position has begun as well, because after what we saw in race 1, who knows what the best place to be is.
Very true. And it all depends on that exit of the bus stop chicane on the final lap. That's where the crucial moment is. Alex Urenga darting one to the inside of Harry.W.S is going to be very close. They're going to run side by side. Mercedes does give him the space. Harry.W.S still, though, will have the inside for the next left-hander. And Alex Urenga just has to tuck in behind for the time being. As you say, Stuart Reynolds into the mix. Chris Chatterton only 1.2 seconds back as well. So if this fight does continue, it could very quickly turn back into a 6-car fight that we saw towards the beginning. But it's going to be a game of sort of, chicken, just seeing where you want to be, trying to back out with certain moves at certain points just to set yourself up in that certain place. But even then, even if you are the race leader, trying to back everyone up, as Thomas Reiter goes slowly to not make the move on Thomas Cope, and that actually forces Harry.W.S' hand to pull to the right hand side. So it's those sort of things that, as we saw with Thomas Cope in race 1, catapulting himself up in his second place, doesn't always work in your favour, so it can really go any way possible.
Very aggressive indeed from Harry.W.S there, but it worked out. Of course, Urenga had to just back off a little bit, but in the end he did. Stuart Reynolds now here as well. Now, is everybody happy with where they are, or will there be a lot of moving around? There's going to be a lot. Look at this. 3 wide for the lead almost. Cope very down low. In the middle, Thomas Reiter. And very up high there is Harry.W.S, but is he going to be able to get through all the way out there? It's going to be hard, and he's not going to. Very wide for Reiter as well. Urenga makes a nice move, although he hits Reiter off the road for Wills, who avoids an impending accident, and Stuart Reynolds will get up into 4th place. Now, looking down the inside again was Urenga there on Reiter, not able to do it. Thomas Cope somehow still holds the lead, but I'm pretty astonished they all made that out unscathed.
Just about. Harry.W.S certainly had a sketchy moment. Rejoined the track in P5, still in the mix. Chris Chatterton now in the slipstream range as well. But yeah, very easily could have ended in disaster for all of them. Luckily for them, it didn't. And yeah, they just having to press on now and continue with it. But Thomas Cope still doing a phenomenal job out in front. John Williams and Didier de Vlaeminck running side by side now on the run to T1, and you can see Vlaeminck on the outside. John Williams trying to hold firm on the inside. Bit of a slide from the Porsche allows the BMW back up the inside. A good effort from Vlaeminck, but inevitably John Williams back up in his 2nd place. And the AMs really haven't had near as chaotic as a race as the pros consistently, that is. At least we saw a lot of carnage early on, sort of fizzled out at the time being, but Ashraf Al-Haddad doing going above and beyond in this race to maintain an 8.4 second gap at Daytona. You have to say hats off to him, because his pace has been really, really good, really stand out.
It has indeed. We do obviously try and spread the interest between pro and AM, of course, but it's very difficult when we've got a pro race like we do right now, and when we've got an AM race like it is right now, with only one fight going on. Unfortunately, it is for 2nd place, of course, but pretty inconsequential in the course of this season, indeed. Obviously, giving a little bit of love to them right now. Of course, John Williams indeed developing. John Williams particularly has had a very strong race here today, actually, and a strong second half to the season, indeed. But the real battle is up front between, everyone. The top 6 are all there right now. Thomas Reiter and Alex Urenga finding it out. So de Vlaeminck making his way down the inside of Williams into the bus stop chicane. A nice move. Pretty unorthodox. You don't often see moves made into the bus stop, but you can be pretty sure that Williams is not going to be able to come back in him down towards turn number 1. So maybe that was the thinking behind that one on that occasion from the Porsche driver. But here is where that fight is. Alex Urenga has been struggling to make his way through on Thomas Reiter over the last lap or so, but now he's managed it. He is up to 2nd. This is how he did it, up the inside at the International Horseshoe. And he was, I think he's just going to be aggressive here and push Reiter out, although he didn't really need to. He just got the power down and got in front. So the real fighting for position has begun. But what is the ideal position to be in? I don't feel like there's an obvious answer really at this stage.
I mean, Sean Campbell, I think, onto the final lap, won it from 2nd. managed to sort of call the bluff of the leader and drive his way to the inside. And at the moment, it does seem to be a hard-fought fight for second. Thomas Cope is just chilling while everyone else behind him sort of fights for the scraps. And being in that second place might, in theory, be the best place to be, but you have to, each last lap here at Daytona is going to be different. Is Alex Renger going to push Thomas Cope? Is he going to eye up the move? He's certainly looking to pull out, but as you quite rightly said a little bit earlier on, you just hit a brick wall of air and can't do anything with it, especially when you're tucked up so closely. And the top 6 still very, very close indeed. Is Alex Renger going to eye up the move into T1? Not quite. So playing it sensible, side by side between Harry Wills and Stuart Reynolds, maybe as they go through T1. Harry Wills, just on the outside, mixing the pair of their names up a little bit. But Harry Wills on the outside and had to tuck back in. But still, yeah, it's just a hard-fought fight for second because none of them want to lead. It's exactly what it is. And at the moment, I would say Alex Renger is in the prime opportunity to win this race if it stays as it is.
Well, could well be, but it really depends if you get the desired position in the end. I've got to be honest. I think this is going to come as a bit of a surprise, however this race is won, because I've got to say I didn't expect the race winner to dive it down the inside of the bus stop chicane on the final lap and then take it all the way to the line. But in the end, when you saw it play out, you thought, yeah, that makes sense, that would work. But you don't really believe it until you see it, and I wonder if we're going to see something similar here. Are we even going to see the tactic repeated by teammate Alex Renger, or is Thomas Cope going to be a little bit more wise to that, having seen everything happen in front of him in the first race? Let's wait and find out. Renger certainly has no interest in taking the lead right now as we go up towards the line once again. I think we're going to get 4 laps to go here when we get there. Looks like it. 4 laps to go. Alex Renger sat in there in second place. I wonder if he is in contact with Sean Campbell here at the moment in this race. I wonder whether he's getting any information. I wonder whether he is planning to do the same thing, but it doesn't look like it. He pulls to the outside line. It looks like he does now want to take the lead. Has he seen an opening for possibly getting away? Well, we'll wait and see, but he's going to take the lead over the line. There it is, 4 laps to go, and Alex Renger will get to the front. Thomas Cope is going to let him have that one finally and start planning his route to the front again.
Yeah, and Thomas Reiter up into P3 as well, trying to hang on from Stuart Reynolds, who's run side by side with him onto the run in towards the International Horseshoe. Is he late enough on the brakes? Looking back from Alex Renger, you can see the menacing Lamborghini that is Thomas Cope. Thomas Reiter manages to hang on to 3rd, with Stuart Reynolds having to back out to P4. Harry was right at the back of this train in 6th place, hanging on still, but any one of these 6 can win this race, and with still 4.5 laps left to go, there's a lot of things that can still happen, can still play out, and that's what I really do love about these races. Race 1 and race 2 have been very similar in this grand finale sort of showdown, with 6 drivers all within a shout of winning it, because you don't know which one it's gonna be.
Certainly don't. We're not going to know right till the very line as well. It's going to be very interesting indeed as Devlamic once again defends from John Williams into turn 1. So what happened to Dean Timms further back? Luckily for him, it won't matter too much, but a bit of a spin, is it? Well, I thought he was going to take too much speed and go out wide there, but in the end he's gone too far to the inside and managed to spin around. Took a bit of a calculated risk getting out the way there as well, but it ended up paying off for him. So yeah, fair play to him for that one. Free car battle a little bit further down as well for 8th place in the AM category. Luffy Vanderbroek just trying to find his way through. I think this car's got damage actually. I can't really tell, and it's difficult to tell with that livery, but it looks like there maybe is damage there, and that's why he's struggling so much to pass these cars, because there just is no straight line speed in that one at the moment. As Thomas Cope, is he trying to take the lead away? Not quite from Alex Renger. It's very close for 5th place, or 4th place I should say. Chris Chanter making his way through. Stuart Reynolds, is he? Side by side through the chicane into the International Horseshoe as well. 2 of them very, very close. A big dive from Reynolds. Looks like he's going to hold on to the pace, and Harry Wills is going to follow through. I mean, if you are back here outside the top 3, you do need to get a bit of a move on, because only 3 laps to go, including this one. You need to get to the front, really.
You do. It's even though you are in check, in tow of those in front of you, it's really difficult to make up 5 places in the span of 1 lap. Thomas Cope did something similar in race 1, but you can't count on bizarre circumstances allowing you to do that. You need to put yourself in that prime position going on to those final couple laps, which is what we're approaching to now. So Harry Wills needs to make some progress forward, but he can't do anything really with Crash Chatterton having the slipstream from Stuart Reynolds having the slipstream from Thomas Reiter, who's having the slipstream from Thomas Cope, who's having the slipstream from Alex Urenga. It just negates itself out. The slipstream doesn't really work into your benefit as much as it potentially could. So Harry was looking to get ahead and up inside the top 5, but once again the gap doesn't open up for him, and has to run single file, all 6 of them through the bus stop chicane. But yeah, again, it's that thing that you can't do much in a pack like this. You can't send one to the inside as easily because you run the risk of just piling into the car in front, and it just makes overtaking so much more difficult. And yeah, those inside the top 3 are certainly going to have a much easier ride. But this is the opportunity Harry Wills needs to seize to the outside, across the line. And on that run towards T1, has he got himself ahead? He's been actually pretty good at going around the outside of T1. It's a very tricky braking zone, but I think that Chris Chatterton in front has got the measure of him. Is that Thomas Cope actually round? It is. On to the final couple of laps. He's had an absolute stinker of that one. And how has that come about? Did he just lose it by himself?
It's hard to tell. He was on a very narrow line through turn 1 and 2 there. He's ended up in the pit wall, which of course is so dangerous at this circuit on the left-hand side there. And unfortunately, it's spelled the end of his race. There's the damage. He's hit the pit wall and really damaged that Lamborghini. Oh, he did get hit by Thomas Reiter. He's going to be so disappointed with that. He's going to be so disappointed. A big shame for Thomas Cope. He led a lot of laps in this race, let's not forget. And it's a shame to see it end in that way. I mean, not to really blame Thomas Reiter too much either. There was a slight bit of contact, of course, and I guess you could put it down to his fault, but the margins are so fine there that he didn't really do a lot wrong.
Yeah, but more so for Thomas Cope because he did nothing wrong, full stop. He's driven phenomenally all race, really within a shout of winning it. And while, yes, it's, more Thomas Reiter's fault than anyone, you can't really blame him for much. And it's just one of those, unfortunate things that happen. And the slight bit of contact can have the most drastic of consequences, as we have often seen. This is Timothy Vandenbroek on the back of Kurt-Hal Jensen for P8 in the AMS. He's not really had the best of final races as Timothy Vandenbroek, one of our championship contenders really for the majority of this season. But as he comes to the penultimate lap, or one of the final laps of this season, he's only fighting for the scraps towards the tail end of the top 10. But interesting to see how this pro fight will end out, because Thomas Reiter, keeping Stuart Reynolds at bay into T1, is allowing Alex Urenga to get a bit of a margin out front.
Well, yeah, it certainly is. And we are on the final lap now. The white flag will have been waving there just they went past the start-finish line. So this will be the final lap, and I do think Thomas Reiter hasn't got the pace here to really challenge Alex Urenga. He will keep the slipstream, and he might even keep second place. But it looks like Urenga is going to just steal away with this one. Been a real dominant season for Alex Urenga, and it looks like he's going to cap it off with another victory here. It's all well and good staying in the slipstream here, but if you haven't quite got the pace, then you're still not going to be able to overtake. It doesn't matter what circuit you're at.
Very true. He has to make sure this exit is as good as possible. Thomas Reiter needs to get his foot to the floor. Stuart Reynolds needs to give him a bit of a helping hand with a bit of a bump draft. He needs to close the gap now, get the drive off that final chicane, and then have the run to the line. But it looks increasingly likely that it's going to be Alex Urenga to take of course he took the championship last time out of Simring, but to end off the season with yet another victory to his tally. Off the final chicane, it's going to be so crucial. The gap around about 6.5 tenths of a second. Has he got the measure? Has Thomas Reiter got the exit, or is Alex Urenga going to hang on?
It looks like Alex Urenga does have enough here, unless Thomas Reiter really does finish with a burst of speed here. You can already see the championship champion in waiting, flashing his lights and almost celebrating this win before it's even happened. But he's absolutely right to. This is not going to change from this point. This is the final lap, and the checkered flag will wave for him now. Alex Urenga wins again, and he is the champion here in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship EU. He has dominated this season, and by the end, he is going to have a big winning margin. Thomas Reiter, second place there, holding on ahead of Stuart Reynolds. Chris Jansen with a nice result there, and Harry Wills finishing down in 5th place. A good pro race up there, up towards the front, with Alex Urenga ending up victorious. R.A.W.S Haddad here with a great drive as well. Another Lamborghini victory, this time in the AMS here at Daytona. It's a great result for El Haddad, but an even better one for Dean Timms in 4th place. We'll see El Haddad coming across the line here to take the AM victory at Daytona on the road. But further behind, it's going to taste even sweeter for Dean Timms, because 4th place for him, but that is going to be enough to seal the championship here today. Daytona Vlaming and John Williams come across the line 2nd and 3rd, but Dean Timms has done enough here to clinch the AM Championship. He has been the most consistent. He hasn't won that many races this season, but he's been by far the most consistent, and he will be a very, very deserving champion indeed.
Very deserving champions both in the Pro and the AM. Dean Timms has been phenomenal, as you say, not setting the time sheets like week in, week out, but always there, celebratory donuts, as to be expected. It's been such a close AM Championship, as we always say. It's been different people leading the way at different points, different pace margins and things like that, but Dean Timms was the man on a mission for all 10 rounds, all 20 races of this season. It's been absolutely incredible, and he was the one that managed to get the measure of everyone else. Alex Sharenga just was under no pressure, it must be said, for the majority of it. Made little to no mistakes, and off the top of my head, the most notable was just the one at Donington that cost him the race lead early on. But other than that, he's just been completely flawless, head and shoulders above the rest, and very, very dominant indeed. So 2 differing championship campaigns, but at the same time, 2 very deserving champions.
Absolutely. And we'll get those final race results up for you right now as well to confirm it. When they indeed figure themselves out, of course. It's not easy. But Alex Sharenga has indeed taken the win. Half a second over Thomas Reiter. Stuart Reynolds, Chris Chatterton and Harry Wills were all in that group as well. Ethan Bass just 8 seconds back, with Thomas Cope even further back. He did actually get to, I'm surprised he did actually get to the end with the amount of damage he had, but 7th place for him. Thomas Cope finished a lap down. Felix Pearl didn't get to the line there, neither did Liam Ahern, Thomas Dandridge or Taylor Lane out there for the pros. Taylor Lane barely made it out anywhere, actually didn't even make it out the pit lane on the first lap, I'm afraid. Further back, it was Ashraf El Haddad who took the win in AM. We saw him take his victory ahead of Daytona Vlaming and John Williams as well. Dean Timms clinched the championship from 4th, with Thomas Pugh in 5th. James Slater was next ahead of David Camano, Kurt Howe Jensen and Timothy Vanderbroek, who was having a terrible time with a damaged car. Jasper Starks rounding out the top 10. Jeremy De Boyver was 1 lap down in the end for the championship contender. I think he'll finish 3rd in the final standings. Werner S was 12th, but didn't get to the end. Neither did Jorge Ferrer, Simon Dodd, Navarro De Boyver, Ivo Linden or Dominic Goodsell by the end of that race. There was a lot of attrition going on further down, especially when it came to the AM drivers. Well, that is just about going to do it for us here in this broadcast here tonight. We have got 1 or 2 interviews to run through. We'll quickly have a word with Ethan Bass here, and we'll bring him in right now. Ethan Bass, welcome to the commentary booth. 6th place for you here today in that Ford. Just tell us a little bit about how race 1 and race 2 went here at Daytona.
I think I can safely say that's been a good update. It was a cracking pair of races. I wasn't really expecting it to be so close, but exceeded my expectations.
It was very close indeed, and it's been very enjoyable racing, at least to watch. How has the season been for you overall? We know the Ford has been a big struggle, I think it's fair to say. How have you found kind of manhandling that car through the season?
Yes, everyone knows it's never going to be like the best car, but it's still my favourite to drive, and I know how to set the thing up well. I know how to try and get the best out of it when I'm not spinning or making a mistake. But it's been fun overall, I think. I had a couple of mishaps at Spa and Le Mans, but just unfortunate racing incidents that happened. Apart from that, the racing's been absolutely cracking.
Absolutely. Great to see you flying the flag for the Ford GT, because it's very underused, maybe for a reason, but it's been great to see you out there in it this season. Ethan, thanks for coming to have a chat with us, and congratulations on what's been a good season.
Thanks very much, lads. Thanks for broadcasting. Thanks to Race Anywhere for sponsoring, and Harry and Wills for doing all the sessions. Today was quite the ordeal for them, but they did a good job.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Ethan. 6th place here today in race 2 at Daytona. And we'll also speak to the AM champion as well, Dean Timms, joining us. Dean, 4th place here in race 2. The championship was all but won by that point. He did just have to cross the cross the T's and dot the I's, if you like, for that final race. But how was it out there, knowing that a championship was on the line here today at Daytona? Doesn't seem that we've got Dean Timms at the moment. He's frantically messaging me. His mic's died, unfortunately. I don't know if we're going to be able to get that fixed or not.
Hello.
Hello. There we are.
Sorry. What a time for my mic to stop working.
That's all right. Tell us a little bit about how you found your evening at Daytona.
It was hard, like really hard. Obviously, with it falling on week 13, and everybody's in the same boat. But it shifted the aero balance on the Mercedes, so I'm trying to sort out the wing and ride heights and stuff to get it back to what it was before the update. But I just played it safe in the end.
It's certainly, and that's all that needed to be done, really. I mean, as a season as a whole, I guess from a behind-the-scenes perspective as well, since you're kind of involved in the running of it as well. How has this season been of the GT3 Championship? It's been very enjoyable from the outside. How have you found it, though?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, there's been some really good racing. I think it's highlighted some potentially very good drivers that we've got into the league. So it'd be nice to hang on to those, because there's been some really good respectful driving, and some really close battles up the front. I know there's talks of us bringing back a Pro-Am class next year, so it should sort of balance things out and bring everybody in their classes close together. So it's exciting times.
It certainly is, and we look forward to seeing what's next with this series. But Dean, thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us. Congratulations on the AM Championship, of course, as well, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you very much. I'll just give a shout out to Nick Bolton there, who's helped me with setups and coaching over the season. Couldn't really have done it without him. So, and obviously you guys for putting on the show. So thank you very much.
It's been no problem at all. Dean, thanks very much for joining us indeed. AM champion here today, crowned at Daytona. Well, that is just about going to do it for the broadcast here tonight. I know we're a little bit later to the party. Sorry about that. Week 13 has made our life very difficult. However, we have now completed the EU Championship here for the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship. I hope you very much enjoyed it, and I hope you'll stick around as well. In 2 hours' time, the US Championship will reach its conclusion at the very same venue, so make sure you stick around for that. But for now, it's time to bid our farewells. I've been Ian O'Leary. Zach Sweeney has been alongside me. Dan Handover has been behind the cameras here tonight as well. And until we see you in a couple of hours' time for the finale of the US Championship, it's goodbye for now.